Good day, everybody. I hope that you are well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 7 English lesson on research writing. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English language arts. We're doing grade 7, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of research writing. All right. So our chapter is research writing. Our subject is English language arts. We're doing grade 7. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of research writing, it is to identify plagiarism, and also to recognize the parts of a work's cited entry. Right? So that is going to be our lessons for today. To identify plagiarism and to recognize the research part of a work cited entry. All right. So when it comes to research writing, right, and this is something that you are going to do actually, um, you're going to do this especially a lot. Um, it's I'm not sure if I can use the word a lot. Often, you're going to use it a lot because you are going to write projects, you're going to write assessments, you're going to write anything that your teacher will basically expect you to research or to look up, right? That is research writing. And when we research anything, whether you get something from a book, from a magazine, whether you get something from the internet, right, and you take that work and you make it as it's your own, you need to, for example, state where you got the information from, right? You need to state where you got the information from. Because if you don't state where you got the information from, then it means that you are taking other people's work and you're making it as your own. And that we call plagiarism. So we call that plagiarism. And plagiarism, all right, so we say that is plagiarism. Plagiarism is when you are taking somebody else's work and you are basically making it as it's your own. Whether it is something that you took from the internet, from a book, from a magazine, right? That is basically somebody else's work, somebody else's intellect. And if you don't, for example, state where you got it from, then it means that you plagiarize the work, right? So plagiarism, it is the act of taking another person's work or ideas and presenting them as your own. So whether you present it as your own accidentally or it can be intentionally and on purpose, right? But still, if you don't, for example, show or indicate that this is where I got it from, then it means that you are now taking somebody else's work, you're taking somebody else's ideas, and you are presenting it as your own. Like we say, either accidentally, like, oops, I did not know, or on purpose, like, let me not, write it in my own words, but I'm going to write it as is, right? So you writing it as is, as per repeating what the person said word by word from the internet. Actually, you're copying and pasting, and that is plagiarism. All right. So when it also comes to plagiarism, right? When you use outside sources in your writing, so if you use any outside sources in your writing, you must be careful to avoid plagiarism. So anything, like I say, anything that you take from the internet, these are outside sources. Anything you take from the internet, from books, from magazines, from newspapers, right? Articles, whatever you take from or you get from outside sources and you use it in your writing, you need to be careful to avoid plagiarism. And if we look at this specific source, right? So with plagiarism, you need to quote by saying, this is where I got it from. And we're going to show you how you can show your citation. All right. It says Kristen Purcell and Lee Rainey. That two names, or those two names, are the names of the authors. Americans feel better informed thanks to the internet. That is the name of the article, name of the book, or name of the something. It is published by the Pew Research Center, that is the publishers, and on this date. That is what you need to do when you, for example, use somebody else's work. You take somebody else's work, whether it is a book, whether it's something online, whether it's something paperback, right? But you need to show your citation. You need to show us where you got the information from in order to avoid plagiarism. To avoid plagiarism. Any research writing, our aim should be to avoid plagiarism. And I know that nowadays we use ChatGPT or any other outside sources where the AI does the work for you. But remember, some of the things you can still pick up, right? So you're gonna have to just try to get something from the internet, but write it in your own words. Or you're gonna have to cite it. And we are going to find out how we can cite words by using whichever citations. All right. It says the vast majority of Americans believe their use of the web helps them to learn new things. So they believe that them going on the internet and using the internet all the time, that helps them to learn new things. It helps them to stay better informed on topics that matters to them, and it also increases their capacity to share ideas and creations with others, which is the truth. The internet, right, or the web, like we would say, we have our pros and we have our cons, right? Of course, the good things, the positives about the web, it's like it says, it teaches you new things, you learn new things, you stay better informed on topics that matter to you. Because even with the internet, every day, every hour, every minute, news gets updated, information gets updated, things get updated, people load things on there, so you can go on the internet any time of the day and something new will be on there. But if the internet is being mismanaged, that can be the negative part thereof. So now we're going on to quoting, right? Remember, we said that plagiarism is when you're taking another person's work or ideas and presenting them as your own, whether it is accidentally or it is on purpose. And that is something that we need to avoid. So, in order for you to avoid plagiarizing or using any form of plagiarism, right? You need to cite whatever that you have read. And you can cite it by, for example, quoting whatever or from the internet or quoting from a book or quoting something from something that you saw or some way that you saw something. So now when it comes to quoting, right? A quote is when you copy a source's exact words. So if you want to say exactly what the author had said, then you can use quotations. Because a quote is when you copy a source's exact words. Sources are either your internet, it's your books, anything that you're getting your information from. And a quote is when you copy the source's exact words, the exact words of the source. And if you quote a source, you need to put the words that you quoted, that was copied, you need to put it in quotation marks and then cite the original source. So you must put the words that were copied into quotation marks and cite the original source. And when it comes to internet users, right, since internet users appreciate how the internet increases the capacity to share ideas. And like we say with the internet, it gets updated regularly. If you go on the internet now, you'll see something different. If you go on the internet later on, you'll see something different. So, which means that whoever uses the internet, especially frequently, they appreciate how the internet increases the capacity to share ideas. All right. And now it says the internet users appreciate how the internet increases the capacity to share ideas. So say for example, this is directly from the internet, right? Where it says internet users appreciate how the internet increases the capacity to share ideas. Now, in order for us to write down that information, right, by quoting from wherever we got that source, and then we, for example, say internet users appreciate how the, now we open inverted commas, how the internet increases their capacity to share ideas, closing inverted commas. And where did we get that from? Who wrote that? Purcell and Rain wrote that. Yeah, Purcell and Rain wrote it. Because here is that whole, let's say, the piece of the article. And if we were to quote it, and then we had to quote it like that, that basically shows that, remember, you're not taking the everything that they said, you're just taking a piece of what they said, and now you're quoting it, or some of the words. I can't say a piece, some of the words, and you're quoting it. And remember, when you quote, when you put it in inverted commas, when you, for example, write down whatever that you took from the internet and you are citing it, you need to write down who the people are that you got the information from. So you can either quote it like we did over here, or it says Purcell and Rainey state that the internet users appreciate how the internet increases their capacity to share ideas. The main ideas we put in inverted commas, right? So when it comes to research writing, the aim is just to avoid plagiarism. You need to avoid taking work that does not belong to you, that you did not write, and making it as your own. And how do we avoid that? We avoid it by you quoting, or you citing, or you writing down where you got the information from. So whether you write literally almost everything from the internet, you need to at least say where you got it from, right? So it's not even about the what you wrote from the internet, it is about how you write it from the internet. So you need to specifically say that I got it from Purcell and Oo, and you, for example, write down the authors, you, for example, write down the date or the year or so on. All right. And once again, we said plagiarism is the act of taking another person's work or ideas and presenting them as your own. Whether you made a mistake, like oops, accidentally, or whether it is on purpose, because yeah, I don't feel like reading all of this. Let me just copy and paste, right? And that is something that you can get in trouble for. Remember, let's say, for example, as a teacher, we know the students one by one, so they'll be able to see if this is your own work, if this is your own information, or if it was taken directly from the internet. And like I said, if it's directly taken from the internet, then you need to show your sources, either by quoting, stating, but showing where you got the information from, right? All right, let's quickly go to aplusstudents.ca, and we're going to identify plagiarism. And remember, once again, we said plagiarism is an act of taking another person's work or ideas and presenting them as your own, either accidentally or on purpose, right? And remember, you need to use your outside sources, or when you use your outside sources in your writing, you need to be careful to avoid plagiarism. So you should rather quote it, write down who your sources are and where you got the information from. And you can write down your information or where you got your information from either by quoting, or you can, for example, by paraphrasing. So either by quoting or by paraphrasing. And we're now going to find out what is paraphrasing since we went over quoting already. And a quote, we said, is when you copy a source's exact words, but you need to show where you got it from. And then we have paraphrasing. And paraphrasing is when you use an idea from a source, from a book, from the internet, from a magazine, an article, or something, and you're putting it into your own words. Remember, you're not copying and pasting, you are not writing it in your own words. That is what paraphrasing means. And if you paraphrase a source, you really don't need to use quotation marks at all, because remember, we are not copying and pasting. Quotation marks are used, right? And that is to show that you took the exact words from the article and you made it your own. That is quotations. But if you're paraphrasing, then remember, paraphrasing is only when you're basically just putting the words in your own words. The source, you're putting it in your own words. So as much as you're paraphrasing by putting the words in your own words, right? You still need to cite the source of the idea. You need to cite where you got it from. If it's a book, you need to write down the authors. And if we look at an example of paraphrasing, right, it says internet users appreciate the opportunities for both learning and sharing that that the internet offers. Because remember, guys, the internet is not just about receiving; it's also about sharing things. Because now you've learned something from the internet and you can share it with others. And now, remember we said even though we paraphrase, we still need to cite the source. Yet it says, according to Purcell and Rain, internet users appreciate the opportunities for both learning and sharing that the internet offers. And as you can see, there is no quotation marks. Why? Because we basically rewrote that in our own words by paraphrasing. However, we still need to write where we got it, who the sources are, where we got our information from. Another example is also paraphrasing, is where we say internet users appreciate the opportunities for both learning and sharing that the internet offers. And who wrote that? Purcell and Rain, meaning that you took the information from their book or their study or something. And that is paraphrasing, where you are writing work in your own words. You're writing it in your own words, but you're still citing. You're still telling us where you got the information from. And remember, there are different rules about how to format citations depending. I think your specific school will tell you how to cite, what to cite, and the specific rules that you need to use or format of citation that you need to use. So there are different rules about how to format citations, such as when to include page numbers and parentheses. You need to just check a style guide, right? For example, like the Modern Language Association handbook. And there you will find the complete list of how to quote certain things, how to quote a book, how to quote magazines, and so on. All right. So now we're going to the test or to our test. But before we go to the test, we're going to, oh, sorry. Let us go to our test. We are going to compare the students. We're going to identify the plagiarism, right? Or we can avoid plagiarism, but let's see what the test says. All right, the test says we need to compare the student's text with the source. We need to compare the text of the student with the source. The source is Michelle Z. Donoghue. How much does it really cost the planet to make a penny? Published on Smithsonian.com 2016. All right. So now that was our source, right? Now it says pennies have an estimated 25 years, the 25-year lifespan, but because of many of them fall through the proverbial um, cracks, demand from year to year varies. And now the student's text, right? All right. So now we need to, for example, say, is the student's text plagiarized? We need to say, is the student's text plagiarized? All right. And if we were to say, is the student's text plagiarized, right? Then it says it is either no, it is not, or yes, because it fails to use quotation marks. So if we look at the student's text over here, it says, as Donahue writes, every year the demand for pennies varies because of many of so because so many of them fall through proverbial cracks. All right. And if we look at both the text, right? Another text, both texts, we just look at the one text. And then we can say, there it does have the author's name. All right. So the source's name was given, and it was played, and it was also cited, right? So now we need to say, is the student's text plagiarized, as in either yes, because it fails to use quotation marks, or we can say no, it is not plagiarized. What do you think? Is it plagiarized, that text, or not plagiarized? All right, so we can say that no, it is not plagiarized. Oh, it is actually plagiarized because there's no quotations. So they want us to put quotations over there. All right, the next one says we need to compare the student text with the source. So we need to compare the text of the student with the source. And it says the source is John Hendricks. Drawing is Magic Page 10. Published by Stewart, Tabori, and Chang, 2015. And the word is to find the core of what makes your time unique. You have to be willing to make bad drawings. So to find the core of what makes your work unique, you have to be willing to make bad drawings. That comes from the internet. Now, the student's text. And the student's text is to develop your own style of art. You have to be willing to make bad drawings. So we now need to say, based on the student's text, is this option one? No, it is not plagiarized. Or do we say option two, yes, this is plagiarized because it fails to cite the source? And if we were to choose the correct answer or choose the correct answer, we will say, yes, it is plagiarized because it fails to cite the source properly, right? So we will choose option two. So, yes, because it fails to cite the source properly. That is why I told you, even as a teacher or someone, especially if you go to the older grades, depending on how, for example, your school is properly developed, right? And you guys send maybe your scripts via internet, then it will be so easy for them to pick up that, this person plagiarized. He took the work and made it as his own, right? All right, the next one says, we need to compare the student's text with the source. It says Anna Claiborne, 100 most awesome things on the planet. The words or the text used is Pulpit Rock's stunning natural setting and spine tingling awesomeness makes it one of Norway's most famous natural attractions. All right, so we now need to, if we look at that one, it says Pulpit Rock's stunning natural settings and spine tingling awesomeness makes it one of Norway's most famous natural attraction. So now, if we look at the student's text, we now need to say, is a student's text plagiarism or plagiarized or not plagiarized? It says Norway's Pulpit Rock is popular because of its stunning natural settings and spine tingling awesomeness. And if we were to say if this is plagiarized, then we can say yes because it fails to use the proper quotation marks. All right, and option two is correct. It says yes because it fails to cite the quotation. All right, the next one says Daryl Fears is our author, aggressive man eating Nile. Crocodiles lived in the Everglades for years. All right, so the text that is given to us, right, is whether crocodiles have been eradicated from the Everglades or are here to stay, Florida doesn't need another headache from an invasion species, right? So that is the text. And the student's text, right, to show that the student is either quoting properly or plagiarizing, it says no one knows whether invasive Nile crocodiles are still living in Florida's Everglades, but Florida doesn't need another headache from an invasive species. And if we already look at the girl's text, right? So, not even the girl, I'm saying it's a girl. The student's text, where it says, no one knows whether invasive Nile crocodiles are still living in Florida's evergreen, but Florida doesn't need another headache from an invasive species. We now need to say if that is option one, no, it is not plagiarized, or option two, yes, because it fails to use quotation marks and fails to cite the source. So we need to say which one is correct. All right. And we now need to say, based on the student's text, we need to say, no, it is not plagiarized, meaning it is his or own, or yes, because it fails to use quotation marks and fails to cite the source. And if we were to choose the correct option, and then we will go with option two. Because yes, because it fails to use the proper citing sources, right? And guys, remember when it comes to reference writing, you need to, for example, just avoid plagiarism. Use the specific words and just make it as your own. Even if you change a slightly few things, right? Use the information and rewrite it as your own. And whatever information you're basically going to, let's say, copy and paste over onto your source, you need to at least, for example, say where you got that information from. Cite the sources, put down the names or the surnames of these authors as well as the date. And that is to avoid plagiarism, because remember, plagiarism is when you're taking work and then taking other people's work, ideas, or intellect, and you're making it as your own. It's basically stealing information in a nice way, right? And that is plagiarism and research writing. And remember, you are going to write more and more and more essays, and they're going to expect you to research it. But you need to, for example, show the quotation, and show also needs to be linked with the information that you are given. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on research writing. We went over what plagiarism is, and we said plagiarism is the act of taking somebody else's work or ideas and making it as your own. All right. So this is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much, grade sevens, for joining the class. And I really hope that you're going to have a good evening further. Goodbye.